So the cooking method we're going to look at now is roasting. You can roast ribs of beef or legs of lamb, but today we're going to do a loin of pork. The first thing to do though is to preheat your oven, and because we're doing pork and we're doing crackling, you need to preheat it to about 220 degrees Celsius or gas mark 8. If you have a fan assisted oven, you may want to reduce the temperature by about 20 degrees. This is a loin of pork that we bought from our butcher. The loin here isn't rolled, but if you ask your butcher, he'll do that for you. You can also ask him to leave the rind on or take the rind off, but because we're making crackling, we're going to leave the rind on. But be sure to ask him to score it for you. This separates out the skin and allows these gaps here that we'll put salt and oil into, and that will allow the crackling to crisp up. So we have two kilograms of pork here, which is about 4.5 pounds. And there's no hard and fast rule about how much oil you want to put on it. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons worth. You then want to use lots of salt. And here I'm using freshly ground sea salt. I think that's best. And then use your hands to rub the salt and the oil into the meat, into the skin, and make sure that you're getting salt and oil in between all these gaps in the skin. This is quite an important part because if you don't do this properly, the crackling won't crisp up. All that's left to do now is transfer the pork to the oven. So the general rule for roasting pork is about 30 minutes per 450 grams, with an extra 30 minutes cooking time at the end. What we're going to do though is use a meat probe to make sure the temperature is somewhere between 75 and 80 degrees. You can cook it for a little bit longer, but it will just be more well done. So our pork has been in the oven for 2.5 hours. The first 20 minutes were on a high temperature to cook the crackling, and the rest of the time it was at a reduced temperature of about 180 degrees. So I'm now going to take it out and we'll probe it with a temperature probe to see if it's reached the right temperature. So there we go, our pork's been in the oven and we're now just going to check for temperature. As I said before, we're looking for somewhere between 75 to 80, but if it's a bit higher, it's okay. So there we go, the temperature's fine. So just remove that. And like with all other meats and all other roasts, you need to rest it before you carve it. So we'll just cover it to keep it warm. Like that, and we'll set it to one side and carve it later. So our loin of pork has been roasted and then rested for about 20 minutes. And now it's ready to carve. I'm just going to transfer it from the roasting dish, trying to get rid of some of those juices, and transfer it to the chopping board. Now you can carve it with the crackling on, but what I'm going to do here is actually take the crackling off, and you can take it off all in one go. So I'm just going to put my knife between the pork and just along the fat here and gently ease the crackling away from the pork. There we go, it's actually in a couple of pieces there. And from there on, it's very simple to carve. Remove this piece here. So I'll just put this pork on a plate here. And you can serve this with seasonal vegetables, roast potatoes, boiled potatoes. You can have it any way you like. I'll break off some crackling there and put that on the plate. So that's roast loin of pork with crackling.